Radiant team ban.
Alright, hello and welcome back everyone here to the Dota Trash King of the Hill $100 Best of 3. We are in Game 2, and of course returning myself, Helium, and joining me on the mic is Gorgon.
Hey, I am pleased to be here both for this Dota Trash Best of 3 and for the Play Sevo tournament that's going to be happening afterwards.
Team ban.
Indeed it is, as we hop in a little ways through the draft here. It's going to be an IO Tiny coming out from SNA+4 in the first 2 picks, as well as some strong push, the Lycan and the Shadow Shaman for eHug.
Yeah, this is an interesting grab from SNA+4. They are going to get that classic IO Tiny combination. The Lycan is going out for eHug, and that is a little surprising in and of itself. Lycan, not one of these heroes that is typically given up. He's been very popular lately, and his popularity has been driven almost entirely by his bans. I actually have the stats on that somewhere. I'm going to try to look them up real quick.
Nice. I will go over the bans in the meantime. We've got SNA+4. They take out that Visage, very strong, aggressive support. Still, Batrider going to be taken out. IX Mike, I'd say he played it pretty well. Not the most success just because Bane and Adventural Spirit were able to shut down his initiations. Very, very good. I think even on the losing team, maybe I'm a Sheep, even the MVP of that. He played so well on that Venge, always with the swaps, but realistically, probably going to Ush's TA as a nice performance there. Annoying heroes that, well, I guess people don't like to see. Nature's Prophet as well as Tinker being taken out. Tinker may be the exception because that hero is so micro-intensive, can really make some plays, although very annoying with his global presence, his split pushing, and just tons of damage. As eHug, they take out the Ancient Apparition, the Nyx Assassin, the Ember Spirit, and of course, SNA, world-renowned Axe player, the Axe ban coming out once more.
Yeah, that honor ban it's got to feel nice for SNA+4, just to make sure that not only is eHug, they're a professional team, and SNA+4 is they're a lot of really high-ranked players, but they're still coming into their own as their own squad. It's got to feel nice when you're getting the honor bans already from teams that are playing up in, professional level quality tournaments worldwide. It's just one of those things that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside.
And few logos are more professional than SNA+4's logo.
I love their logo. Their logo is probably my favorite Dota logo in the world.
Reminds me of Team DD back in the day.
Wow, way back in the day.
Before they were Quantic, and then before there was the Stormhammer heard around the world, I guess.
I do have my Lycan stats pulled up. I ran a bunch of statistics here because I am planning on writing a piece for Lycan on Join Dota. The bans since before the 15th of last month, or the 15th of this month, when he really started to get popular, his popularity shot up right around 3.6 on a day-to-day basis. Bans throughout the bulk of that period, twice as frequent as picks. And as of the last week or so, spent most of his time up at 100% pick ban rate for games, dropping down to just above 75 for only a single day. So this Lycan, very, very driven by bans. That's as opposed to the Ancient Apparition, who's actually driven by picks. So Lycan prioritized by teams not wanting to play him, whereas Ancient Apparition is prioritized by teams who do want to play him a lot more often.
All right. Well, there you go. Looks like you're prepared to write your piece.
I am all ready with my stats. I just have to actually learn how to write.
Yeah,
I need to learn words.
So does IX Mike. Although he's doing a good job, typing on the internet these days, from what I've noticed. But what do we see? We see an IO and a Tiny. Not the most scary early lane. Not going to be putting a lot of pressure on anyone. Maybe they do well mid, maybe they just go to the safe lane. Not a lot of pressure on a safe lane farmer. So eHug, they're able to pick up a Lycan who's a weaker laner. Can also hand over that safe lane to a support around the 6-7 minute mark when he picks up his Vlad, so he can go Roche, he can go jungle. This will allow Shadow Shaman to even get some farm, find a Blink, or even Centaur War Runner. And with Shadow Shaman, he's a very, very good support when it comes to rotating and making things happen. Not the strongest laner, I guess, just because the damage isn't there and he does need levels. So we'll see what they want to do. They need one more support. Centaur War Runner probably going to go and try and punish this IO Tiny lane. That leaves Shadow Fiend into
10
the
seconds
mid,
remaining.
still susceptible to some ganks, and it looks like Clockwork
5
will be
seconds
on the offlane
remaining.
for SNA+4, and we're going to see an Invoker this time in the hands of Ush rather than Justin.
Reserve time.
Yeah, that's an interesting swap coming out here. Ush getting that Invoker, and we'll see if he decides to go for a more traditional Invoker build, or if he decides to go for something a little more 1-1-1-y, so like Justin tried to do last game.
I don't think he'll
I
do that against Shadow Fiend with his early low base damage.
I suspect it's going to be a basic Quas Wex. Particularly, well, actually, you know what? We might see the Exhort because the Sunstrike along with the Tiny IO would be very, very devastating. Yeah. So Invoker's still actually more up in the air than I originally right off the cuff gave it credit for. The Lich coming out.
Radiant team.
There's a blast from the past.
Yeah, nicely done. I don't know. I'm just concerned that eHug is going to get their timing with the Necro Book 3 on Lycan pretty early, as well as Vlad's Shadow Shaman level 6 with his Serpent Wards. And can SNA+4 stop the push? I don't know. I mean, they've got the Frost Blast, they've got the Initiation, or, if Team eHug decides it's time to pull out, Clockwork can maybe punish that. The Wisp Tiny as well can punish that, while, all the meantime, they're split pushing. And then if they catch Team eHug off guard, they can just come back at any point. So we will see, although, I don't know, man, it's hard to stop the Lycan Shadow Shaman.
If eHug has their game on, unlike last game where they were kind of a little here and there, if they stick together and really make sure that their coordination is stellar, SNA+4 is absolutely going to crumble because they're completely based around the ability to run in and gank. They've got the Clockwork with the hookshot, the IO Tiny relocate, Lich is going to be grabbing a couple smokes, and Invoker's also got that long-range Tornado and Ghost Walk initiation. Or if he does go for the Exhort, he's got the very nice Sunstrike global initiation / damage. So eHug, if they do get up some basic items through the early and mid game and start to do that 5-man push, getting a couple of 5-man initiations out of the Moonlight Shadow, SNA is going to have a lot of trouble finding people to gank in the first place, which is the entire basis of their strategy until about 35-40 minutes.
Indeed. All right, to introduce the teams. On the Dire here, you can see they've won that first game, so they're looking to close it out and take that $100 here in a game number 2 with KVH. He's going to be playing on that Tiny. SNA Dota behind him on the IO, the Wisp, whatever you like to call him. He's actually a very, very good IO player. Ush Dota going to be in the mid lane on that Invoker. Whitebeard Dota going to be pretty bored for the start of this game, just sacrificing up those creep, maybe throwing out the stacks, or helping middle. Whitebeard going to be playing the Lich, and there in that bottom lane it's going to be IX Mike 88 playing 2 traditional offlaners back to back. I don't know what is going on.
Well, IX Mike does do the offlane for SNA+4 most of the time. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen
No, he does,
SNA+4.
but he's normally playing Void or some ridiculous offlaner like Zeus.
Yeah, no, I saw the Zeus game. Well, he did do his Zeus game, like, what was it, 6 days ago or something? That was extremely fun. I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen any Nature's Prophet come out, considering how much he loves that hero. But regardless, for the bottom tri-lane coming out of eHug, we're going to have Jiggle Billy running around on that Lycanthrope. We've got I'm a Sheep Sucks riding around on the Marana. We've got Pandago doing the casting on the Shadow Shaman for the mid lane solo. We've got Justin scaring up a storm on that Shadow Fiend. And for the top lane, we've got Cakes making a stomp here with the Centaur.
Dude, the Horned Mother, that axe is pretty badass. He's also got the Gloried Horn of Druid, which probably one of the lamer cosmetics I've seen, but it's still pretty awesome. Up in the top lane. So this is when Centaur Runner has been getting picked up for, to punish lanes like this. There's not a whole lot they can do. Tiny may be a bit of an exception, as he has got a lot of burst with the Toss Avalanche early on, but I mean, Wisp can't do much to harass here because of Return being skilled up on Cake, so he's going to get his levels and probably a decent amount of farm as he works towards a Blink Dagger on the Centaur.
So what's interesting about that is I suspect that's going to turn around and bite Cakes in the bum too. Because anytime that Io wants to get his health a little bit low so that he can heal up the Tiny with the tether, all he has to do is harass Cakes. So he can harass Cakes, get maybe 100, 150 damage down on Cakes, and then he can heal up his own return damage while healing up the Tiny. So that may go either way depending on how these players play it. But both of these heroes could readily counter the other one.
That's a good point, actually. It's definitely interesting. It's not the biggest deal, though, because normally, since the tether nerfs, you're just keeping it at level 1 and getting overcharge, which takes health away from IO. So you can always just overcharge yourself, or apply the buff to Tiny and lose your HP to start healing him up.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a pain in the butt if you're losing health while your opponents are gaining health. And at least in my opinion, I would certainly rather have the overcharge go out and have my opponent have the overcharge buff than have my own health pool constantly being drained while my opponents don't seem to notice. So Cakes looks like he is going to go for a Vanguard early potentially, so he'll have his Ring of Health up pretty soon, one would suspect. He's already got his brown boots up, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, and you've also got to expect, the Lycan as well as the Shadow Shaman to start taking out some towers, and that early tower gold is really going to help, get that Blink Dagger up even quicker on the Centaur. This is pretty much how Empire has been running their games for a while now, from what I've noticed. I haven't had the chance to cast them in a while, but yeah, they're doing quite well. But this mid lane, Ush Dota, Whitebeard Dota, the Ice Brothers here as KOTH and Cold Snap are going to be the choices first. Whitebeard Dota on the Lich, of course. They've got really good kill potential here in like one more level on each of them. A little bit better Cold Snap, maybe a second spell able to be invoked up here by Ush. And of course, those squishy heroes, Frost Blast just decimates them and keeps them off the lane. Unfortunately for Shadow Fiend, he can just go into the jungle, stack up, and catch up later. So I don't know how effective this is really going to be in the mid lane.
Yeah, here's the interesting. We've been seeing a lot more globally, but particularly in the North America European scene of the last week or so of that Lich coming out, but coming out for this dual mid situation. I don't think I've seen it since his original popularity burst. I don't think I've seen it on the Dire side. I've only seen it on the Radiant side because it allows Lich to go back and stack camps and then just come out and do the Dark Sacrifices. Up here on the Dire side, they're going to be doing a lot more splitting of experience. And as we had said before last game, Invoker, a very experience-dependent hero. I don't know how much I agree with the idea of taking the experience away from Moosh, even if you think that it is going to be minimizing Justin's farm, which at the moment they are doing a fairly good job of, but... the question is, once he gets up a couple souls, will they be able to continue to scare him away from the lane?
Yeah, we'll have to see. And also, Shadow Fiend, one of the fastest flash farming heroes, so he can just catch up later. Invoker to make up for that XP. He's got Sacrifice to help a little bit, but Shadow Fiend can also receive some of that if he's in range of the Sacrifice. And as for going Midas here, it looks like he might. He goes Glove of Haste, so I think he's running for the Midas. This could be risky, though, because you know that around 10 minutes there's going to be insane push coming out from eHug, and if you've got a Midas, you might not be so equipped to stop that push.
Yeah, the Midas is...
actually, rotation in the mid lane. Pandago going to start things off. There's no stun here from Whitebeard. The arrow's going to land as well, and this is one dead Ush. That's going to be the first blood going over to Imashib. Sucks that double damage. He's going to leap forward. The double Starfall's not going to land, but with the DD, one more attack into the trees will do it. The salve, it's a nice idea, but it's not quite enough. And a great rotation there for eHug. Definitely changing the tides here in game number 2.
eHug's showing a different squad than they showed game 1. They would not, in the first game, had any sort of coordination on that, but this game, they've absolutely made sure that they are coming in with a fresh face, with a fresh mind, and they're going to rotate down bottom now for another kill. It looks like Ice Mike is completely unprepared, although the stun is going to miss. And that will give away the fact that they're coming at him. And some
just
more double damage.
Forward.
Yeah.
He
still lost half his health. Yeah. He's going to have to tango up and be fairly careful as this tri-lane does return.
Doesn't look like IX Mike on that Clockwork was really forced to use any regen early on, so he's still got quite a bit left. He's getting good levels, so that's going to be pretty nice here for SNA+4. Have that hook online as early as possible to try to shut down this push, because at 5 minutes in, he's going to go ahead and skip the boots. Actually, Whitebeard's in a lot of trouble here, Justin. He's slowed down by the... I'm gonna forget all these spells here. The Frost Blast, and he's looking for the double raises. His medium range is on cooldown. Oh, but the long range one gonna cut over the hill and will land, picking up a kill. 3-0 now, early for eHug. Justin doing exceptionally well.
Yeah, the Tornado narrowly missed Justin too. Although the attack had already gone off by the time Tornado would have landed. It's just one more little bit of salt in the wound there for SNA+4, or SNA+4, excuse me.
It is SNA. I asked the man himself.
Yes. I got into bad habits because my co-caster for Sivo Toffees always says SNA. And,
yeah, because someone is out there spreading rumors that it is SNA. Like, I got yelled at one time when I was casting. And they're like, you're so dumb, it's SNA. Well, whoever that person was, you were wrong.
Yeah. Twitch chats hates it when I say SNA+4. They hate it when I say ush instead of oosh, or when I say oosh instead of ush.
It's hard to say that without, you know, words or letters like P and K before it, like push and cush.
Yeah.
It's not as easy.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, guys. Saying words is hard.
It really is.
Up in the top lane, it looks like we see some pinging potentially. Nope, it is just farming. I got all excited for nothing, but there is a double damage rune waiting here in the top. And Ush does see it, so he has a ward up there. Presumably he's going to go up there with the face boots and grab it. His Midas is going to be coming out pretty late here, considering he's dealing with a fairly early game team. Lycan out of the current meta.
Cakes in the top lane in a lot of trouble. The stout shield and the cloak that he picked up isn't going to pay off. They're diving here with the extra move speed from the tether, and it looks like they are going to get it the return, though. Now KVH needs to not get hit by the tower. SNA might not be so lucky. He can tether out here pretty far, get that regen going to KVH, and they will both live, but just barely. And now they bottle up, so they will be okay.
What a play for SNA Dota. Coming and saving the Tiny by taking the tower aggro, narrowly escaping, then getting himself out with the tether, and saving the Tiny again with the tether heal as the tower attacks come out. That was perfect management of aggro. Like, textbook.
Yeah, and they find the double damage that was sitting top, so the bottle's filled up. They're both back to full health. They're ready to fight Cakes again if they want to, and you can't really even tell that SNA has the double damage. It's hard to tell on the Wisp, as KVH even farms up the camp. So he's at 1,000 gold right now. He's finished up his treads. We'll gotta assume he's just gonna go straight for the Aghanim Scepter here.
Yeah, Wisp sitting as the double damage ninja. He cannot even tell that he has it because of the little blue auras that come around him anyway.
Indeed. And as for the mid lane, you said Ush's Midas was going to be late, but I feel like if you go phase into a Midas any time between like 10 and 12 minutes is going to be a pretty good time for you.
Yeah, but do you really want to grab yourself a 10-minute Midas against a team that has a Lycan, has a Centaur who up to that point had been farming out fairly well, and a Nevermore is going to be able to flash farm and push in? I don't know if I really want to push off my Invoker's max efficiency to 17 minutes or later when I'm looking at potential tower bursting, and my carry is a Tiny who probably won't really get going until 25 minutes. So I don't know. We'll have to see the execution coming out of Ush, because obviously that Midas, if it does come out, it looks like it's actually going to come out at about 8 minutes and 45 seconds, which is a lot better than I expected.
Yeah, so he's done very, very well there. I understand the concern with the Midas. I also think it could be risky. Not going to help really to stop any of the push or the Serpent Wards. But with the laning situation that SNA+4 did run, I think they need it. It's kind of forced Invoker's hand to go for the hand, if you will. As Whitebeard picks up an Invis there in the bottom lane. He's up to level 6 right now, so he does have the Chain Frost. They can like to string together another gank, maybe catch somebody off guard.
Yeah, this is going to be a little interesting here as we move in to about the 12-minute mark when I expect eHug to make their first major push attempt. Oh, Cakes is actually going to dive in on KVH up here in the top. With his
Stampede in the top. They're going to look to line up the arrow. They're going to hit KVH in the face, but he's not taking too much damage because of this overcharge. That's their mistake, I think, not just focusing the IO. Instead, they line up the arrow. I mean, Centaur did stun both. I think that maybe could have been handled a little bit better by eHug, so that's going to give some more room to SNA+4 to continue to farm up and get up their items before that push of eHug comes online. Now Justin in the mid lane, KVH not super fast. One more bounce is going to do it, and the toss! KVH going to pick up the kill there on Justin, so suddenly the score tied up here 3-3, but the push has started. Jigglebilly takes out that bottom tier 1 and goes for a Midas. I think I just threw up.
Shadow Fiend was like 50 units away from being away from that second bounce. The Lich was hoping to immediately get the bounce back from that wave of creeps. So there are too many creeps, and it looked like he was going to be able to get away, but not quite. He doesn't have the movement speed up yet because he's still sitting on brown boots.
Yeah, I mean, well, he does go for a Midas, so you can say he pays for it there with a bit of greed. Maybe could have had up some treads. But I guess he's got the Midas, so he's pulled up some reliable gold. Maybe the death not all that bad, but it does give quite a bit to Tiny now, who's got a point booster, an Ogre Club. So he's more than halfway to this Aghanim Scepter already. Could maybe be the reason we see this Midas coming out onto the Lycan for Jigglebilly. I don't think it's a very common item on the Lycan. Generally, you get this hero, you're like, we're going to end the game in 20 minutes, peace. But after that turn of events, they're like, all right, prep for late game, get a Midas.
Yeah, and late game seems to be, well, at first it really seemed to be the name of the game for SNA+4, but at the moment they're executing through this early game so strongly that Will eHug even be able to get going before this Tiny gets his Aghanim's and really starts to wreck stuff? He's over halfway close to his Aghanim's.
Mike's in some trouble. Nice long-range raise. Pandago not going to run out of those cogs. Summoning the wolves uphill from Jigglebilly. Really, really nice attempt there. And a really good play that a lot of people wouldn't have even thought of. But it's not going to be enough damage.
Still, very nice play. Shows his familiarity with the hero and kind of shows one of those little things that you can do with the Lycan that really has contributed to his being feared throughout the meta. The fact that he can find you anywhere and kill you early because he's a very fast hero. He does not need very much in terms of farm in order to be devastating and very difficult to kill. With the health bonus and the movement speed that's going to be coming out of Shapeshift, he is a nightmare to deal with at about the 10 to 15 minute mark in particular.
Yeah, I mean, we see those wolves, they get summoned up the hill there. They're great. Of course, they go invis at... Do they start invis at level 3 or level 4? Level 3 and 4 wolves have permanent invis, yeah. So the permanent invis is really nice for late game intel, making sure that Roshan is down or up with that random time on him. Here's IX Mike initiating here on to the Shadow Fiend, and there's the relocate coming in now. Moonlight Shadows has gone out. Pandago going to reveal himself. Sna back up the hill, could be in trouble. This tornado going to land on 2 people now. The IO Spirits trying to do that work, going to toss him forward, and they will be sent back as soon as the toss goes out. Looks like it did break the tether, so KVH going to stay around. Arrow comes in from the backside. That's going to be the Mirana trying to say hello. The Mansa, actually just the Illusion Rune. Illusions go in, and they get cleaned up pretty quickly.
So this is precisely what I was talking about during the draft. eHug, throughout the early portions of the game, did very well, but now they have to worry about the mega gank potential, and look how spread out they are. They are all over the map. They're consistently not with each other, and they are still not getting their... They haven't had their first major push yet, really, as a team, and we're sitting at 13 minutes. There's going to be the arrow. It is going to hit Ush.
Oh, in the mid lane, yeah, Ush. That's a big stun, maybe 4 or even 5 seconds. They do drop a sentry as well just to try to get this, but here comes Snell once more. I told you this guy was a good Wisp player. He's doing his best to save with the overcharge. He actually does! They turn the kill around. Invoker gets the kill there, and Imaship sucks the Mirana. Perfectly played there by Sna.
Sna has been out of his mind this game. What is this guy doing playing anybody but Wisp? This is amazing. He has saved everybody on his team, I think, at least once at this point. In a big way. Good. He's
another solid Wisp player, actually, in the scene would be Zai.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think we cast that game, actually.
We did.
Wasn't that EG versus Union Gaming? We started calling it Zio.
Yeah. Where was it Union Gaming? I don't know that it was against Union Gaming, but he did play that sacrifice style IO where he was literally trading off his life every like 2 minutes for one of his teammates and basically won the game. There's going to be the relocate down bottom on Pandago.
Yeah, Pandago, very, very sad. He was a pretty sad Bane last game. Now he's still only a level 5 Rosti here at 14 minutes, and that could be the reason we haven't really seen eHug group up and try to push because, well, they don't have the Mass Serpent Wards. It's actually SNA+4 going to be taking this bottom tier 1 tower. That's going to make the towers even for the most part. Maybe not. A Glyph of Fortification used in the middle lane. Justin, I'm a Sheep trying to push it down, but the support's coming in and forcing everyone off of that tower. So towers will be evened out.
Shadow Shaman playing right into Sna's playbook as once again they're just waiting for anybody to be alone. Jigglebilly is going to be up here in the top lane trying to do some counter pushing or split pushing, I guess, as the mid has this huge engagement. The Moonlight Shadow is going to be used.
Well, Pandago almost goes down. I hear a hook. It's actually going to land here onto Cakes, so they're not going to let Cakes get away with that. That was his Stampede initiation. Oh, here comes a nice ultimate now from the Shadow Fiend. They're going to turn it around completely, so IX Mike will go down. Didn't really notice that the rest of eHug had stuck around. Now Invoker going to come in. This is Ush wanting to kill Imaship sucks. This is just a support Mirana. His early rotations have allowed him to pick up some pretty good items, and Jigglebilly, meanwhile, pushing out that top tier 1 and tier 2 towers. So eHug's strategy starting to work there a little bit. Losing a lot of map, just losing a lot of map presence there. Yeah,
the SNA+4 squad initiated into that twice while they had this tower push in. I think that they were hoping to kind of pull the bully maneuver where you kill the strongest out of the pack and watch the rest flee. But instead, the rest actually stuck around and made sure that the top tower was going to go down and the second top tower was going to go down as well. Even if eHug had traded off some kills there, that would have been a great maneuver from them. The fact that they came up in kills and in the towers is kind of devastating to SNA+4 and really shows the strength of eHug's lineup if it is played correctly.
Yeah, and kind of rebuilds my confidence in Cake's build decision here. He doesn't go for a Blink Dagger. They realize these pickoffs aren't going to be so easy to find with how well SNA+4 is playing right now. He goes for the Hood instead, wanting to get down in early pipe so that when the time comes, they can just breach the high ground. And I think that extra bit of magic resistance keeps him alive there in the middle lane, and they turn that around. Actually, Mike gonna hook in onto the Wolves here. This is another relocate attempt. The tier 1 tower, though, still stands. Jugabilly has gone for an early BKB. SNA+4, they're gonna have to hightail it out of here, but there's really no counter initiation by the side of eHug, so they're gonna be okay.
Yep. eHug doing a fairly good job of picking their battles here when they have the opportunity. The problem is they have been falling behind because they're not always given the choice whether or not they're going to fight. SNA+4, they do have the Ganoms up on the Tiny. He has Ganoms and Overcharge. At this point in time, he's going to be able to counter push like a monster, and he continues to flash farm up here in the jungle with the IO, who is managing to keep levels up fairly well considering he's basically been literally tethered to this Tiny for the bulk of the game.
Well, he's done quite a bit. I mean, he's 1, 2, and 3. I think those deaths came after some kills, so he's been picking up, you know, all the XP for the kills he's been involved in, about half of them for his team. And yeah, he's just been following around Tiny, who's picked up this Ag so early. It's just blazing trails through the jungle right now, and this is going to be KVH looking to pick up. Well, we'll see what he wants to go for next, whether it be like an AC, a Manta, maybe even a BKB.
Once again, Pandago having a little bit of trouble keeping his levels up. Once again, we're at about the 18-minute mark, and he's sitting at level 6. So not only does he not have any real basic items up other than his mana boots, like literally arcane boots are all he has in his inventory that's not consumable. He's sitting at level 6 and having a lot of trouble sustaining himself. Those serpent wards are not scary at all if you don't keep them scaled, and they've only just recently come out. So yeah, they'll be able to push down towers a little bit. We're going to see an engagement somewhere here.
Wow, they're going to throw out the Requiem of Souls for that. A lot of damage. The arrow comes in and will land on Whitebeard. That's going to be a max arrow. They might be able to keep him alive. Nope, the Serpent Wards will be able to get him, but the relocate in from Tiny and the IO, of course, that's going to be enough to pick off the Shadow Fiend. They will clean up the roster, but one more is going to fall. I'm a Sheep Sucks getting the kill there. Jugabilly coming in now with the Lycan Wolf. There's no bash yet, and the arrow is just a second too late as he is able to TP out back to the fountain.
Was that arrow on cooldown, or was it just a late reaction coming out of Mirana?
It had to have been on cooldown because he did hit Whitebeard at the start of that fight with an arrow. So
that's
probably
such
just a
bummer. Such a bummer for eHug. They really could have made something out of that. As it is, they traded off their Shadow Shaman, who's having so much trouble, and their Nevermore, who is really kind of a mid-game linchpin for their strategy. Both of those two heroes falling for relatively unimportant heroes coming out of SNA+4. They are going to grab themselves a tier 1 mid, it looks like, potentially here, though.
Maybe. The TP is coming in here from SNA. It's just a wisp, but the way he's been playing, there he goes. He finds his friend, the Tiny. This avalanche goes out onto Cakes. The hook in from Mike. This is going to be Cakes taking the fall here. More than likely, the cogs to go out. And it looks like KVH able to attack over them with the extra range there from the tree branch as well as Grow. So, yeah, nice defense, and they could go ahead and deny the mid tower, but they might just put their sights onto the Roshan and take it while they do still have some map control with that mid tier 1.
So Tiny overcharged. He's got his Hyperstone up already sub 20 minutes. He's going to have an Aegis as well, and at that point in time, we're probably going to see some towers start to go down as SNA+4 thinks about redecorating eHug side of the river. Oh, there's the arrow, and it does manage to hit KVH. That's a big snag. KVH
of all people
take the Aegis, but they're not going to be able to reinitiate into this. So, oh, there we go. KVH is actually going to get the Aegis. The stun not long enough, and eHug not trying to do another sneaky Aegis snag like they had last game. However epic that was, it didn't work out for them. They decided maybe we'll just give it up. Also, probably not the best of plans, though.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? The Chain Frost was still up, you know, Invoker hasn't used any spells, so he can just throw the EMP Tornado if you try to walk through the choke point. It would have been pretty difficult. Maybe they could just, you know, use the ultimate from Lycan as well as a BKB to run in there, scout it out to start things off, but that's a lot to give up. It's just a Roche. I think eHug still feel fairly comfortable, but they are going to lose this tower, and this is going to even up the tower game here. KVH initiated upon first. Nice cogs there by IX Mike, pushing 1, maybe even 2. They try to go onto Cake. Serpent Wards are going to be dropped. They will trap, but it's not going to matter. It's going to be the death of Pandago. They will find Cakes as well in the trees, and the wards just, well, they were there, and then I think KVH just killed all of them immediately.
That trap was so good, but there was no reinitiation on it, and that was And Tiny even just stood in them. He didn't seem to be quite aware that he was trapped in for a solid 4 or 5 seconds, which once again was a great opportunity for eHug to reinitiate. But they cannot deal with SNA+4 at this point. They've let F Tiny farm way too much, and they did not do any significant style of pushing. Really yet, other than that split push coming out of the Lycan, they haven't had a single time where they've gone forward and really put their minds to grabbing towers. And that's basically what their draft was designed to do, with the Lycan with the Centaur to suck up.
Wow, Jigobilly's in a lot of trouble. And they're going to bring him down.
Oh, yeah.
That EMP doing a lot, and maybe even a bit of permastun there, or just not wanting to use a BKB charge that would have lasted for 8 seconds, you know, just to survive that gank where he might have even died after popping the BKB.
Yeah, he probably would have. With the overcharge and the damage output coming out of Tiny, he's swinging 221 per. With the overcharge, he's swinging that a lot faster. His attack speed already is more than 1 per second. And
the AC.
Yeah, there's just not a lot that eHug can do now in a team fight against this Tiny. Of course, they can't split either because the IO is going to be able to bring the Tiny to them. So they really have to try and... I don't know. They have to try and find a way to make sure this Tiny's not able to swing the big stick. Either bring him down or zone him out of these fights. So if he's there, they're going to lose.
That could prove difficult as there's still 3.5 minutes left on the Aegis. That creep taking the bullet there, standing up for KVH, protecting the Tiny. As we did say, he's got the AC, so they're really ready to push towers. And when you talk about Rat Dota, you think of Nature's Prophet first. Then I guess you think of Lycan these days. But really, let's not forget Tiny and Io. They can get it done. That was a tower. Now it's dead. Mike, hit by an arrow. There's no follow-up because, well, there really is no follow-up. Even the Stampede isn't quite good enough at this point. There's just too much damage coming out from KVH with that cleave, and this could be SNA+4 taking a very convincing 2-game best-of-3 series.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if there's anything eHug can do here. They're going to try to initiate in. They're going to use the Moonlight Shadow for it. But, yeah, this is very sloppy. It's not very coordinated, and Cakes is just going to run himself into a suicide.
He did a decent amount of damage, though. Justin gets off a beautiful Requiem of Souls, pops to the BKB. They will be able to bring down KVH. That, of course, is just one of his lives. Everyone kind of low. SNA trying to relocate out of there. They won't give him the chance. They're going to take him down. The arrow off the mark from Sheep. A little bit unfortunate. The Avalanche doesn't quite do enough to put him in the grave, and I think KVH is just going to TP out. There's really no stuns. Rasta gets there, but he was pretty much fresh out of mana. Really showing how much this EMP is hurting the team here. Ush will live. He's actually picked up a Sheep Stick on this Invoker as well.
So, taking a look at some of our items, I haven't really been announcing them as they come out, but Tiny, obviously, has now finished the Assault Cuirass. The Clockwork has had the Force F up for some time. Lich has had the Medallion of Courage up for some time. As you just mentioned, there is the Scythe of Vice out on the Invoker, but Lycan has gotten his Boots of Travel up. So that alongside his BKB, which is now down. Nope, it's still up at 10 seconds, so he's still not used a charge on it. Or did he rebuy? I thought I saw him use a charge, but maybe not. Though
on Lycan?
Yeah, on Lycan. No charges used?
No, it doesn't show the charges off of the,
you're
item
right.
list.
There we go. Yeah,
so he's down to 7 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, there's...
Yeah, it would be nice if it showed it off of that, because then you could check everybody's, like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Caster problems.
Volvo, please, help casters.
There's more important things than that one, though.
Jigobilly trying to get a little bit of farm, and it looks like Whitebeard's just going to stumble in on him, along with IX Mike, and he's going to run away because he does not know if that Tiny is just going to pop in out of nowhere with that relocate. They cannot...
Or even an Invoker with an EMP. If the EMP goes off, it's just... so much trouble for Jigobilly. If he doesn't shapeshift before the EMP, then he can't fight. Yeah,
basically at all. Looks like the Wolves are just going to stand here scouting a little bit on Ush. But this is going to be another tower. They'll probably see the Tiny relocate down with the IO. No, IO, where is... yeah, he's up here with the Tiny. So we'll probably see them relocate down for this tower.
Oh, well, they just connected an arrow onto Ush. No initiation, so not going to force out the relocate. Those Wolves, of course, you know, scouting, providing some intel. You mentioned the Boots of Travel pickup. You can just teleport to them with the Boots of Travel, so it's a pretty good item. As Lycan, they're really going to need him to rat out hard this game.
Yeah, I honestly...
We're both doubting that he can pull it off, but...
He can't handle an IO Tiny relocate on him while he's ratting, though, is the thing. And he doesn't have a Necro Book yet, which means he doesn't really have as much tower output damage as he would like, nor does he have the ability outside of the Wolves to really soak up the tower damage. So ratting, not a huge option right now. Maybe it will be in 10 minutes, 12 minutes. But will eHug last that long in the face of this Tiny IO damage? Tiny is pumping out over 400 damage per second now. Like,
yeah, it is
what do you
quite
do?
a bit. There's also that armor reduction even, and Shadow Fiend, what? He's got 9 armor right now. Not a whole lot. There is a Vlad, so I guess you can add 5 more to that when Lycan is around. That'll help a little bit. He's got a BKB, so the magic damage isn't going to hurt Justin, so he can just stand there and attack. He hits for a decent amount. Lycan, of course, hits very, very hard, assuming he can get off a shapeshift. Hopefully he can in one of these fights for eHug. They've yet to lose a Rex, so, I mean, of course, anything can happen, but it's going to be fairly difficult. But look at the gold graph, man. It's so even, but it's just the momentum of the game. It just feels so in favor of SNA+4.
Yeah, this is... once again, eHug started this off so strong with their execution, and then just failed to push in, and they kind of fell into old habits. I thought that we were seeing a new eHug squad potentially, but they were just getting a little burst of excitement here, as they are now kind of lapsing in their teamwork once again. The roster struggles have really seemed to impact their overall game performance.
Yeah, I don't actually know why he was so underleveled to start things off. Maybe just not pulling the creep. I don't know. I mean, Pandego obviously knows what to do, but not sure what happened. Didn't pay too much attention to it. But he does have a Blink Dagger, so that's a good form of initiation. Unfortunately for him, the Mass Serpent Wards are at rank 1, and Tiny, well, he sneezes at Serpent Wards, and then they disappear pretty much right now. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Pandego, too, is he's not exactly died a whole bunch. He's died 5 times, which is, yeah, kind of a lot for one hero to die, but for a support to have died 5 times is not unreasonable, particularly in a game that's its cutthroat. Normally, once again, you'd expect him to just be a little higher in level, and he is starting to catch back up. He's almost caught up to IX Mike. He's 2 levels behind, so... And the farther the game goes, the easier it'll be for him to catch up, because his levels will be exponentially easier to grab than the next levels of his opponents. But we're going to see the charge.
Well, that's a wisp, and then it's gone. Nice pick off. Finally, they actually forego picking up the pipe. It looks like they're going to get the Blink Dagger instead on Centaur, which I would have liked to have seen first, so they could do things like that. They pick off the wisp. That's the buddy of Tiny. Maybe Tiny's a little upset right now, and you've invoked his wrath for later on, but now you've got 30 seconds uncontested where you can push, you can do things. You could have taken Roche if it was up. It's not. It will be respawning in about a minute's time, but that's eHug finally capitalizing, and with that gank, I think the momentum has stopped, and now it's anybody's game.
Yeah, well, certainly eHug is not out of this, but, I mean, when you look at the gold, it's nearly close. The problem is eHug has no room for error, whereas SNA+4 has a lot more room for error. There's going to be the Blink with Cakes. There's a fair initiation. A Force F is going to get KVH out of trouble.
The fight continues, though. Nice cogs there by Mike. Going to go ahead over onto Sheep with the hook. They will bring him down. So eHug, they get the tier 2 tower. They lose a Mirana, who has a lot because of his really good start at the beginning of this game, picking up the DD and getting 2 kills, I think, with it, or at least a kill and an assist. So he's got a decent amount of items, even working towards a Manta style. But tier 2 tower for the Mirana. I think it's a pretty good trade.
KVH is, well, it's a pretty good trade unless you consider the fact that Roshan is just about up and eHug has just been pushed off that side of the map. So we're looking at, if KVH notices, we're looking at a free Aegis coming out on behalf of Tiny. It looks like they might not be that interested in it, though, as they do chase down here in the bottom. Jiggle Billy getting in a bit of trouble. He might go down. He's going to shapeshift, but he gets a very nice dodge. IX Mike making sure that Lycan is going to go down. Now they're going to retire potentially back to the Roshan pit.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll just try to push it in.
Well, Mike might rocket it here in 5 seconds, but look at this ward. That's what scouts it out. They see Jigglebilly rotating. Jigglebilly thinks he's safe. He's kind of just like, whatever, maybe he's in the shop buying something, and they catch him out. Very, very nicely done, and of course the play there by Mike at the end, the force forward into the cogs, using that a little more offensively than we normally see Clockworks do. But no, they're not too concerned about the Aegis. It was a shorter Roche, and I think about a 9-minute Roche. KVH wants to go break the high ground. Now he's got a Crystallis. There's the hook forward by Mike. He doesn't have an Ag, so that's the hook he chose to use for this engagement. It looks like it's going to be okay. They pick off 2 immediately. Mike going to immediately pause the game. It doesn't appear to be a BM NEL style pause. It's going to be Lich has actually disconnected in the middle of this team fight. Just maybe a little awkward.
Yeah, so Tiny is now pumping out, on average, something like 675 damage per second with -5 armor to everybody around him, and that is with siege damage and a huge area of splash. They basically, they cannot handle KVH. If KVH has the IO with him, there is no dealing with them, and we're literally watching as heroes drop to their knees in front of him.
All right, well, Pandago's ready to go. Looking at the buyback status here for anybody, a lot of people have it. Marana does not. Lycan does have it. He's back in 15 seconds. It looks like they don't want to use it here, but with the decision for SNA+4 to just take one Rax and go straight to the mid lane, they're going to use the Fortify. Okay, so Lycan is going to be forced to buy back. Nobody will, but they have given up a lane of Rax right there, and this maybe could just be SNA+4 going back to the Roshan pit.
Yeah, they did have to react to the top lane as the Nevermore was up here doing a little bit of troublemaking. But yeah, we see the Roshan pit is being pinged out. And once again, this is just going back to that there is no room for error for eHug, whereas SNA+4 has some room for error. SNA+4 can wipe down a tower with that tiny IO combination in about 3 seconds. Which means that if eHug is down without buybacks, they're guaranteedly going to lose a tower, plus most likely most of their towers and racks. The second they lose a significant fight, this is going to be over.
Well, Cakes goes in. The rest of his team, though, going to get split off because of the Tornado and EMP. It didn't really land on anyone, but it pretty much did what it needed it to do. It separates everybody, and that's going to let SNA+4... Oh, I did it! SNA+4 get out of the pit as Lich disconnects, quickly reconnects once more. That's Whitebeard on his way back to base. They've also bought up a gem just to push their advantage and continue to take map control.
So, other than the Crystallis that came out on the Tiny, we haven't seen any real significant items come out for SNA+4 in terms of damage output, though Invoker does now have both the Force Staff and the Scythe device. Looking at eHug,
as well
however...
as an Ags.
Yeah, as well as an Ags. That is, I guess, worth noting, though it doesn't significantly increase his damage output. He is able to solo Cakes, though. So,
oh, and I miss it. But, you know, whatever. Cakes goes down. Tanky hero, it does show you that Ush does definitely have some damage, and with all those spells, get that APM up.
Yeah, he got his Exhort up, too. He decided to drop the KOTH and go for Exhort very early in this game, and it was a very strong choice. His ability to output damage has been tremendously helpful when that Tiny is not around. We do, however, see 3 Blink Daggers now out for eHug. There's the Travs, obviously, up on the Lycan, who now has an Assault Cuirass of his own, and the Marana does have the Manta Style. Shadow Fiend even getting a little piece of the action as he's managed to grab a Butterfly. We see a reinitiation up here in the top lane, and KVH is going to grab himself a kill in the Shadow Fiend immediately with that IO relocate.
Shadow Fiend, even with his Butterfly, just exploded right now, or right there, and the relocate takes him right back in the mid lane as they look to push. Whitebeard clearly having difficulties. They're like, whatever, screw it.
We don't even need him.
We can do it without him. As they go into the mid lane here, looking at the buyback potential. There is no buyback here on just an arrow to hit KVA. It should be a pretty long stun, but again, there's really no follow-up. Lich is back, as it looks like he's actually still pretty close. I thought he had already run back to the fountain, but
they probably migrated him forward.
Yeah, I guess he did DC, so they just turned him around. Mid lane is gone.
Yep.
So
there's that no room for error situation. You'll lose at least a tower and Rax every time you lose a fight against a tiny IO combination, especially one this farm. They're probably going to lose 2 lanes here.
It looks like they will BKB here. The 10-second, actually that was only a 9-second BKB charge here from KVH, and they just take out, what was that, the Shadow Shaman. Of course it's one hit. He's so squishy, and as we've said a couple times, unfortunately for Pandago, pretty far behind. The GG comes out, and it looks like perfectly on time for you to get and cast some SIVO main Season 4 here on the same channel.
Yeah, so we are going to have for you right away after this match, or very, very shortly after this match, coming up in about 15-20 minutes. We've got 2 Chans versus Voss Avi here for SIVO Season 4. And please do stick around. For those of you in the Dota TV ticket, you can cash that over at twitch.tv/playsivo1. Make sure that you're coming by and grabbing all of the Dota action we have available for you tonight.
Yeah, I believe also Ever and Prove, which should be pretty recognizable names in the scene, should be casting up on twitch.tv/playsivo too. So a lot of SIVO Season 4 action to come. You can make sure to check out the in-game ticket for that. I think it's $2.99. And of course, already you have watched this best of 3, the Dota Trash King of the Hill series for $100. It looks like it goes to SNA+4. So really, really playing well, taking out eHug, which is a pretty big team here in the NA scene. So SNA+4, of course, they're not messing around, and my point is you can also help support Dota Trash by looking for their ticket. I think it's maybe just 99 cents, so definitely worth the buy just to get those cosmetic items. And of course, I'm Helium. You can follow me on Twitter at Heliumbrella. You can follow Gorgon here at GotCow, and of course he will be back.
GotCow Dota. The
GotCow Dota. Excuse me. Dota's like almost implied on Twitter handles these days. But it'll be you and Toffee's coming back here in just under 15 minutes.
Yeah, so we are going to... this stream will go down for just a second. Stick around, chit-chat in the chat box, and we'll have the next stream up very, very shortly.
All right, we'll see you guys momentarily.